If you love Wuthering Heights, a gothic novel about revenge, love, betrayal, you will for sure love Hihintayin Kita sa Langit, which is actually based on Bronte's novel. Just as a recap, Wuthering Heights is about a boy named Heathcliff who was adopted by Mr. Earnshaw, and looking the way he does, suggesting his otherness, possibly as a Moor or Romani, his pseudo-adoptive brother Hindley hates his guts. Catherine, on the other hand, does develop feelings for him and him for her. But Catherine betrays Heathcliff. He then plots his revenge and sees it through. But his supposed victory doesn't really give him the satisfaction he so craved. Princess Weeks has a great video on the whole Heathcliff discourse, and she's much more qualified to speak on it than I am, so I implore you to watch it. Hihintayin Kita sa Langit starts off the film when the affluent Don Joaquin Salvador brings home a boy he found in the streets of Manila and raises him as his own, even naming him Gabriel after his son that died. While Carmina, the Don's daughter, and Gabriel are inseparable, his pseudo-adoptive brother Milo Salvador hates his guts. Carmina and Gabriel develop feelings for one another, but when the Don dies and the estate is left with Milo, who continues to treat Gabriel in abhorrent ways. As the new Don squanders off their fortune and with Gabriel gone after overhearing Carmina's cruel opinion of him, Carmina is left with no choice but to marry their rich neighbor. Gabriel then plots and schemes to get his revenge. Little Women needs no introduction, as the book has a renaissance every 2 decades and gained a cult following online thanks to Greta Gerwig. But basically, Louisa May Alcott's novel tells the story of 4 siblings, the March sisters, with different personalities and ambitions, just navigating life together with their marmee. And although they have differing temperaments and desires, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy have a bond that can withstand time, grief and loss, and hardships. Four Sisters in a Wedding is on my top 4 favorite films list, and I will recommend it every chance I get. The Salazar sisters, Teddy, Bobby, Alex, and Gabby, wish for a little brother. And with their baby brother CJ, now grown, Gabby, who is left to take care of their widowed mother and household, convinces the rest of the family to come home for his wedding. Upon their reunion, the sisters have to confront the issues they have all swept under the rug, all while trying to stop the wedding from happening. It's heartwarming, it's fun and funny. I cry every time I watch it, especially as someone who can relate to Bobby. The characters are unique from one another and well written, like the March sisters, and the story tackles the different dynamics in a family, particularly a Filipino family. The Salazar family can get through anything together. Overall, it's a 10 out of 10 film for me. During the Great Depression in America, the poor Jodes family struggles to survive with the economic condition worsening, and their livelihood as farmers is threatened by droughts and industrialization. So the family leaves Oklahoma for California with its promise of prosperity printed on handbills. But before they even step foot in the state, they learn that not everything that glitters is gold, and the American dream is just a fabricated lie told to many. I have 2 recommendations. The first one is Lina Broca's Manila sa mga kuko ng liwanag, which is based on Edgardo M. Reyes' novel. It's about this man named Julio who leaves his home in Marinduque for Manila to find his lover who was brought there by some woman for schooling. To survive in the metropolitan, he had to get a job as a construction worker, and there he learned from his work environment and co-workers that Manila is only a great place to live in if you have the means to do so, but that it can swallow you whole if you don't. The film tackles themes of labor exploitation, prostitution, organized crime, and systemic classism. Under a corrupt system, even the kindest and most naive people can be corrupted. It is considered one of, if not the greatest Filipino film of all time. If you want something that focuses more on a farming family like the Jodes that struggles with the same issues, then you might like Love Diaz's evolution of a Filipino family. If you like slow cinema, then this is for you because it lasts over 10 hours and took 9 years to film. It follows the Gallardo family from the beginning of Ferdinand Marcos Sr.'s martial law until the end of the Marcos conjugal dictatorship. I feel like I don't really possess the words to describe or even summarize this film because it's something that you really have to watch for yourself. There is local migration, mental illness, socio-political upheaval, and so much more. And I think this actually resembles Grapes of Wrath a little bit more than Manila sa mga kuko ng liwanag. If you love Another Country by James Baldwin, you probably also love jazz music and the city life. The novel explores themes of interracial and or homosexual relationships, and internalized oppression and the human condition set against the backdrop of New York's jazz scene. It's about a black drummer Rufus and his social circle struggling to make sense of their natures, their impulses, and desires. You can envision the moral decay of these characters in his novel as they thrive and survive in a city filled with crime, violence, parties, smoke, epiphanies, and dreams. Manila by Night is one of Ishmael Bernal's greatest works and follows these different characters in the underbelly of Manila. Alex is a closeted queer student by day and a folk singer with a drug addiction by night. Bea is a blind masseuse who gets her fix from her lesbian best friend Kano, played by Sherry Hill, who is one of my favorite actresses of all time. Baby is from the province who falls in love with a married taxi driver who also happens to have a mistress named Adelina who says she's a nurse but is actually a prostitute. Ultimately, the film is an ode to a city where luxury and poverty intersect, and thereby highlighting the economic disparity that was prevalent in the country during the Marcos regime while exploring the lives of these different characters as well as the moral ambiguities in their decisions and actions. It was pretty controversial at the time of its release, especially to then First Lady Imelda Marcos, who banned it as it showed Manila for what it truly was beyond the mist of their quote-unquote golden age fairy tale. The rich O'Hara family owns a plantation in Georgia where a rebellion is about to ensue because the South wishes to keep slavery alive and thriving for their own economic gain and racist perversion. The story focuses mainly on Scarlett O'Hara, who is spoiled and unladylike. She falls in and out of love and experiences grief and loss. With the American Civil War going on and Black people fight for their freedom, Scarlett finally understands hunger and poverty and hardship. She becomes the prototype, I guess, for girl boss feminism, buying her own sawmill, and her self-preservation instinct prevail throughout the novel. She finally knows what she wants in the end of the book, only for that thing to no longer want her back. So she goes back to her childhood nurse, Reed Slave, for comfort despite having anti-Black sentiments. And I use that phrase generously. I don't really know what to think about you if this is your favorite book, seeing as I am not American and I still felt pretty uncomfortable reading it. But there is a film considered to be the Filipino version of the story. Becca Galiaga's epic film is a story in 3 parts. Oro, or the Golden Period, is about the affluent Ojeda family living lavishly in the city despite the looming threat of war. When the Japanese land in Philippine shores, the second act starts. In Plata, or Silver, the Lorenzo family invites the Ojeda family to seek refuge in their hacienda in Provincial Negros. Also, that's the name of a place in the Philippines, and so many of our languages are heavily influenced by the Spanish language. So I promise you I'm not saying a slur, that is just the name of the place. So the two matriarchs of the rich families, as well as their two amigas, play mahjong and talk about their anxieties in the comfort of the hacienda while the help serve them. But their lives are not without threat, and the sheltered Miguel asks the guerrilla Hermes, who stumbled upon their home, to teach him how to shoot. In Act 3, Mata, or Death, the household moves to the Lorenzo Snipa Lodge in the forest, which is still pretty comfortable, just not for the servants. When a series of unfortunate events occur, Trining's self-preservation instincts prevail, while Miguel has to step up to avenge his mother and the rest of the group. The two stories are often compared because they are romanticized tellings about the rich during wartime, and it's kind of like one of the few times, I guess, that they experience hardship. But they're also about the socioeconomic disparity and racism or classism that remains ever present even during wars. And like in Gone with the Wind, the characters are interesting and written to be sympathetic, but you just cannot really root for people like them in the real world. If you love this dystopian novel about what a society that allows its government to have full control and surveillance over its constituents is like, then you might enjoy Kisapmata. Winston Smith works for the government's historical revisionism department but falls in love with a woman named Julia, and as the two air out their feelings about politics, they soon learn the extent of the government's reach because it has eyes and ears everywhere. Kisapmata is a commentary on the Marcos regime. Retired policeman Dadong Karandang's daughter Mila asks her father if she could leave home to marry her lover, Noel. After the wedding, the couple stays with the Karandang family upon the patriarch's insistence, and with Mila saying she has to take care of her mother. Because of Dadong's behavior and dictatorial personality, the couple escape the house. In their attempt to retrieve their things, Dadong, predictably, resorts to violence to get his way. It's a psychological thriller wherein, much like 1984, the dictator, in this case Dadong, exercises control through violence and surveillance. I actually discovered this film when I watched Ray Salte's video essay on how the structure of their house, which allows Dadong access to everyone, is reminiscent of the authoritarian machinery that allows dictators to keep tabs on the people, especially the subversives.